it was something that went wrong that made something go hugely right in the life of the young lawyer Alphonsus Diggory. He got it wrong, an oversight in one important legal case, and so he took it as a sign that the Lord perhaps was asking for something else, and the rest is history. He had this particularity that he insisted that everyone who heard him in church, down to the last widow at the back of the church, would understand every single word that he said. No preciosity in what he preached. He had to be understood, and that has been the charism of his order ever since. Popular preaching. He wanted to reach those who were not normally reached by the parish structure in the south of Italy. They were spiritually impoverished. He is known as a teacher of moral theology. He helped souls and didn't torture them. He tried to find what was best in them. There were schools of thought which were quite vigoristic, and it could lead to damaging and wounding souls already fragile. He tried to help. It's called the probabiliorist against the probabilist schools. One school would insist it had to be pretty well sure, and the other, well, it's probably enough to be okay. It actually led to an opening with regard to people receiving the sacraments. There is one exception to that, and it's the Tutsiorist area where the sacraments have to be 101%, especially fontal sacraments, sacraments which lead to other sacraments, like ordination and baptism. It was this that John Henry Newman saw very clearly, that it wasn't enough to be sort of okay in the Anglican setup. It had to be 101%, therefore copper fastened by absolutely valid orders without any question whatsoever. And that has always been the viewpoint of the Church. We can't mess around with fontal sacraments in any way whatsoever. It's just too dangerous in its consequences. And strangely enough, those who were responsible for the Protestant Reformation, themselves clergy, did not realize what they were doing. One would have thought that a brilliant man like Martin Luther would have known that he had no power to transmit the orders that he had himself, but was only a presbyter. And yet, Lutherans take his name. Presumably they look back to him also for their orders, but they have not got them. No priest can transmit what he hasn't got. It's only the fullness of orders that actually can be transmitted, and therefore by a bishop. With regard to what did not amuse Martin Luther initially, the likes of indulgences, it is to be looked at, especially on this day when now around midday on the 1st of August until midnight tomorrow, the 2nd of August, a big indulgence is available for the faithful throughout the Universal Church, that of the Portiuncula. It was a special privilege given to St. Francis and his order, and expanded bit by bit to reach the situation right now where all parish churches can actually be places where it is received. The visit is required with the recitation of the Our Father and the Creed, and one prays also for the Holy Father's intentions. It has to be in a state of grace, which presumes therefore confession as well near the event, and also Holy Communion on the day itself. But this bit and the next bit is important, and it's perhaps what also Martin Luther overlooked. There has to be complete absence of attachment to any sin, even venial, for it to have its effect. Why? It's otherwise presuming that God is a slot machine. Well, it's not like that at all. These are carrots which Holy Mother of the Church places before the eyes of her little people so that we can actually try hard to get what is available. The Church is a good mother and opens the treasury of her merits. That is, this great wealth of merits that she has through the life and intercession of the saints, including our Blessed Lady, over the centuries. it's her treasury, and she enables her children to have part in this. She detains the key. These conditions are given. It was greatly simplified in 1967 when St. Paul VI published the Enchiridion Indulgentiarum, the Handbook of Indulgences, in which he clearly indicates that henceforth they will be regarded in two categories, plenary and partial. And plenary indulgences are available, more than we think. This would be one. But there will be others also. There would be half an hour of adoring Blessed Sacrament or visiting Blessed Sacrament, even in the tabernacle. Half an hour of Lectio Divina, the Way of the Cross, Stations of the Cross, the Rosary said in the family, and so on. These things we forget, but they're there for the taking. And with regard to Martin Luther, who didn't want to take them, we know, unfortunately, that it didn't help him. Now he would be just longing for one indulgence. But we know from the experience that was given to Blessed Maria Serafina Micheli, when she didn't know where she was, but was praying before what she thought was a Catholic church. It was closed, and she was on the altar, rather on the steps before the church, and her guardian angel appeared to her and said to her, "Get up, this is not a Catholic church, it's a Protestant church," and she was allowed to see where the one responsible for that church was, who had actually been born in that place, Edzibel, was. He was down under in the wrong side of things, and she was indicating, this angel was indicating to this great mystic, who had a fantastic relationship with the angels, why he got there. It was pride. So any lights which she had became then contaminated by owning them and becoming independent in using them. Any gifts of reformation and reform are to be used within and not without, and cannot be blessed by the Lord once there is independence of mind. It's to be borne in mind in all discussions. Yes, the Lord needs to be present in all that happens in the church, but outside the church he's no longer blessing. That's not quite as actually simple as it sounds. He's blessing insofar as he allows people where they're at to find him, but his positive will is they should be in the church. A child born where he is will believe what he's told, but an adult needs to think it out for himself, and often there's a lot of laziness in thinking it out for oneself. One is too much conditioned. It's too much hard work to think for oneself. One needs to ask, why am I what I am? Did the Lord have a project? Is the church just a thing of free choice? I can go to the best preacher. Or is there something more to the equation? Well, the Lord will answer that. He has ways and means of answering if we let him. But we don't want him to. We're quite happy in our comfort zone. And so it goes on. But the ideal is the combination of the true faith, the fullness of the sacraments, and practice. Interiorized and loving practice. We cannot say that one is absent, therefore the other is not there. No, the Lord wants them both. Alas, pride is a participation in the sin of Lucifer. He fell by pride, and those who resemble him show who are influenced by him.